Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. It's double game week time. My name is Joe and joining me is Neil to look at the best armband options for double game week 24. Neil, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Joe. Yeah, long time no see. My old team news sparring partner.
Yeah,
I think we've done a podcast since last season. So,
I know
nice.
it's been a while, hasn't it? But yes, you're back filling in for David from the captaincy video, and excitingly a double game week. So we're going to understandably focus the captaincy on those double game week teams. I think that's where most FPL managers will look there, but there are other options, and we'll come to that a bit later. Manchester City, Everton, Burnley and Fulham all play twice. I think for me personally it's just going to be a City player. They're the form team. They've got reasonable fixtures. I say reasonable, pretty much any fixture is good for City at the moment, but maybe there are others. So let's have a start with Man City. They play Spurs and Everton. Now it's not ideally the best pair of fixtures, but as I said, it's City. So they've just put 4 past Liverpool as well, who are the reigning champions. So which, if any, of the City assets should we be considering for the captaincy? What do you think? While you talk, I'll put some stats up on screen so we can draw on those as well.
Well, obvious place to go, I think, if you're talking form and maybe security of starts as well, would be Gündoğan. It's not big, it's not clever, but that's where the form is at the moment. He is actually FPL's form player. If you look at the last 30 days, this is how their form table works, the average score over the last 30 days. So he's top of that. So yeah, since he became this goal-hungry, goal-crazed number 8, which he is now, I mean, we've been used to seeing him playing as part of the double pivot and then not playing at all, really, for the past couple of years. All of a sudden, he's gold dust in FPL, and he's become, I mentioned this to Andy last Friday on the team news video, he's become a bit like what De Bruyne was over Christmas. You know, when Pep said he was not going to rest him, he's too important. Whereas they've got options further forward, you know, that interchangeable front three. There's no one really like him. I mean, they've got Bernardo who's playing as the other number 8, but in that setup, providing he doesn't go back to the double pivot, which is what he was doing earlier in the season, then he's kind of pivotal to what they're doing, really. And Everton and Spurs, not really games to be resting place for. I know they've got a healthy lead at the top of the table now, but both clubs are competing for Champions League places, Everton and Spurs. These are sort of toughish tests, tougher than they would have been a couple of weeks ago, I think. Spurs got Kane back, looking a bit more potent, admittedly, against West Brom. Everton got all their big guns back as well. We saw what they did to United in game week 23. So not games where you can sort of rest on your laurels, really. And Gündoğan would be probably my pick of the City assets. So this is just looking back since he became this. I described him as the German Kevin Nolan in my scout notes last night. He's this sort of late arriving in the box, goal scoring machine. So this was sort of from game week 13 onwards, we think he started to play this kind of role. Now, since then, he's top among City assets for pretty much everything you want.
His shots aren't coming from outside the box; they're coming. He's arriving in the box and putting those chances away. The last game week showed it against Liverpool. Missed a penalty. It was almost heartbreak there, and then suddenly gets a massive double-digit haul, and that's not unusual. You know what it is with some players? It's when they score, you just like. You just expect it every week. I expect Gündoğan, the form City are in, as you said, the integral part he plays to it. So what we're looking for the captain, we're looking for a sure starter and essentially the best player. The stats we got up on the screen, last 4 game weeks for City, and they show exactly what you've just been saying. In terms of expected goal involvement, Gündoğan has been the man, expected to have been involved in 4 goals. He's had 6 goal attempts, created 9 chances, so he's doing really well in those sort of metrics. His expected goals just under 3. He's actually scored 4, and he started 4 times. And if you look down the list, the likes of say Sterling or Jesus, they just can't compete in terms of starts and minutes. Sterling is doing really well. Sterling is a good bet for the captaincy. I think a lot is going to depend on who you've got. I personally have Ederson, Stones, and Gündoğan. Gündoğan's the captaincy for me. If you say had Sterling and Gündoğan, there is an opportunity perhaps to go for someone a bit different. But you're betting against Gündoğan arriving late in the box and putting away a chance, which is what he's been doing for the last 10 game weeks or so.
I went back to game week 13, which is when he scored his first goal. He's the Premier League's top goal scorer in that time, 3 clear of everyone else, 9 goals. So I mean, and even at the weekend, we saw both his goals were from inside the 6-yard box, and that was when Pep mentioned just after the game he was actually playing deeper in the second half. He was part of that central midfield, and he still got in the box, still got in the 6-yard box twice to score. So everything's pointing in his direction. You did well to mention Sterling there. I did have a look at him as well. He's got 11 attacking returns in his last 11 starts. Tends to start the bigger games, of which you'd say these were 2 of them. I mean, he's 4 rests this season. 3 of them have come in home games against absolute dross, Brighton, Burnley, Sheffield United. So he does tend to start the bigger games. He is, as I said, 7.3 points per match is his average over those last 11 starts, which is very, very nice indeed.
In current stats, he's the second man most likely to get you a goal or an assist. If they were playing, I don't know, Fulham, Palace, that kind of game, I would perhaps be considering the likes of Ederson, Diaz, Cancelo, but they're not. They're playing Spurs and Everton, who are both capable of scoring, whether that be a consolation goal or really, putting them to the test in quite a high scoring match. But the defence is looking solid. But it's got to be Gündoğan for me. It's upside chasing there rather than kind of beige upside chasing.
Yeah, just on the defence. I mean, they're on this phenomenal run, aren't they? Like this is it 11 clean sheets now in the last 14. If you look at the fixtures they've played, though, I think there's only been 4 who've been top half or are now top half clubs. So there has been a very, very kind fixture run. Okay. Yes, of course, they've kept clean sheets against United in that time. This is more of a test. Seeing that, of course, like if it wasn't for that Ruben Dias rig at the weekend, which was so rare, it would have been a clean sheet at Anfield, which is, I was going to say not something many teams do, but teams are doing it a lot at the moment. Even Brighton and Burnley are doing it at Anfield. So
yeah, definitely.
Maybe not the achievement it was back in the day, but of the City defenders, Diaz is obviously your Neale's pick. If you're assuming that he's not going to be dropped for that, and then Cancelo is your upside chaser, is your gamble. 4 times as many shots, almost as many of the City defenders over this period I'm looking at from game week 13. He's created all but one of City's chances from a defensive perspective since that time as well. So obviously he's got the attacking stats, but he's also got the considerable rotation risk.
Okay, I'm going to put some defensive stats up. Once again, we're talking at last 4. These stats were prior to last night. This is to timestamp this. This is being recorded on Tuesday morning after the Leeds Palace match. I actually did this before the Leeds Palace match, put this table up. They show that in terms of big chances conceded, the Whipping Boys at the moment, as Southampton, I'm going to say slightly skewed by that Manchester United result, but they were in the bottom 6 at that time anyway. West Brom, definitely. Burnley conceding a lot. Palace, we know about as well. They're not performing well. But then Everton have conceded 8 big chances, which is 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's more or less sort of joint 4th or so. So they're still they're not doing. Their defence hasn't been doing that well. They've tightened up a bit, but in terms of goals conceded, they've actually conceded 7. So Everton are there for the taking. Their expected goals conceded is nearly 6 over the last 4, and they've had no clean sheets. There's definitely attacking returns for City there on paper. And then looking a bit further down with Spurs, sometimes you see Spurs quite near the bottom, like near Man City when it comes to good defences, but they're not. They're sort of mid-table. They've conceded 7 big chances over the last 4. They've conceded 5 times. They have been a bit unlucky. They were expected goals conceded was in fact more than 6. And they've only kept 1 clean sheet. I think there's attacking returns there. They've got Kane and Calvert-Lewin, those teams, so I'm not sure about the defence. But yeah, it's got to be Gündoğan, Sterling, whichever attacker you've got there. But they're the 2 standouts for me. Right. Yeah. Now I mentioned Calvert-Lewin. I think he is still an option. He got a double-digit return against Manchester United last time. Everton play Fulham and Man City that we know about. It'd be really the Fulham match you'd be targeting, but it wouldn't surprise me if he scored against Man City because he's building up his form. But yeah, what do you think for those that perhaps looking for someone different, or perhaps they don't have they've tripled up on the Man City defence and want to stay that way? Is Calvert-Lewin a good option?
I'm happy to own him for the double game. I've got him. I've kept him throughout this barren run, and he's belatedly started repaying the faith. He is a streaky player. When Ancelotti came in, he had that run where I think he scored 9 before lockdown, and then afterwards, of course, when I bought him, he didn't score a single goal.
No.
This start of this season, it was the same again. 11 in his first 11, blanked as soon as I got him in terms of goal scoring anyway. And then he started his streak again. He scored in the last 2. So if you're looking for omens, then he's hopefully back on a streak. I looked at you're right. It's Fulham plus possibly 2 appearance points.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
It's possible.
Yes, there is a chance. There is always a chance with Man City. They just need one lapse of concentration.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's got all the, as I said, got the big guns back. People have mentioned Rodriguez and Richarlison being fit, but look at Dini as well. Like he's a huge fit for Calvert-Lewin. I think he's assisted 3 of Dini's assists have gone to Calvert-Lewin. When he was playing with, we had Holgate and Godfrey at full back for a while, and obviously he's not going to get the same supply of crosses from those 2 as he would with Dini. I did look at Calvert-Lewin. I looked at his record against the bottom half, because it is, as you say, it's for the Fulham fixture where you'd be captaining him, and he's top among forwards for goals scored against the Whipping Boys. They're sort of the bottom 10 this season. Top for big chances as well. So definitely a game where he can bag a goal or 2, and then anything else against City's a bonus. What I would say about Fulham as well, just briefly, we'll come on to them in a sec. Defensively, sort of more resolute, I think, since they brought in that new intake of players. Sort of game week, I think 11 onwards, they started playing 3 at the back. Haven't been turned over by too many teams, but we saw against West Ham, yes, they kept the clean sheet. They did move to 4 at the back. They need wins now. There's no 2 ways about it. They can't really be playing for draws really in games against. I mean, Everton's a decent side, but Fulham need points now. So hopefully, from a Calvert-Lewin perspective, Fulham are maybe starting to, or have to start opening up a bit more, and playing for draws is no longer going to cut the mustard, because they are well adrift of the rest.
Last week on the Scoutcast, I was talking about headed goal attempts. And I was looking at one of those things where you're matching up a player that's good at a particular attribute and a team that's particularly poor at that. And I highlighted Palace and Fulham as being particularly poor at conceded heading goal attempts. And I also then, because it was Souček were playing them, unfortunately, the referee had other ideas there towards the end. But you never know. In that final minute, he could have got something.
He would have scored.
And Bamford against Palace as well was another player I highlighted. They are doing really well for headed goal attempts, but I believe the best for actually headed goals is Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
So you've got someone who's very good at heading goals. It's harder to head a goal than shoot with your foot. Basically, it's harder to get a headed goal than kicking it. But he is actually converting them, and looking at the last 4 game weeks, headed goal attempts conceded, Palace still the worst with 18, and then Everton coincidentally with 11, and Fulham with 11 as well. So they have conceded the joint second most, Everton and Fulham, goal attempts. So could be a lot of headers in this game. There could be a lot of headed goals, but that's the sort of thing that makes me think, if it was just Everton against Fulham this week, a single game week, I'd be very, very tempted by Calvert-Lewin. But it's not. It's a double. Let's move on. Looking at the other fixtures as well, there are other options. That Fulham and Burnley play twice. Of those, Burnley probably have the better pair of fixtures. They play Fulham, and then they also play Palace. So there's opportunities there, perhaps. I'm thinking Pope, if you were going to go that way, because if you're going to get a clean sheet, you're probably going to you might get the odd save point, but you're probably going to get bonus as well. Would that be a fair assumption if you were going to captain Burnley way?
You've just summed it up nicely. Yeah, I'm completely overlooking Fulham, and if it's Burnley, it's Pope or nothing really. I think he's they've not kept that many clean sheets this season, but when they do, He holds.
Yeah.
So six of the 7 times he's done that, he's got 9 points or more.
Yeah.
And 5 of them are double-digit holds.
So,
see, as you say, save points, bonus points, they always come. The way Burnley play, those 7 clean sheets, 4 of them have been 0-0s, 3 of them have been 1-0s, or it might be the other way around. So they don't score. The strikers aren't getting in the bonus points mix. The defenders aren't getting in the bonus points mix because they just don't pass.
No.
They don't complete passes or create chances. So when Burnley keep clean sheets, he holds. And Palace, bottom for big chances over the last 6 game weeks. Fulham, 6 goals scored in the last 12 games. I've got my captain's armband on Pope as it stands.
Oh, I was going to say. Now, do you own Gündoğan or
I do.
Sterling? But so you're favouring Pope over Gündoğan?
At the moment, I might bail based on memories past of Shane Duffy, but slightly different.
Do you know what though? I mean, I don't have Pope. I have Ederson. So Gündoğan gets it over Ederson for me. If I had Pope, I would have a choice to make. Because every single double game week, I look back on it and I think, why didn't I captain my goalkeeper? Why didn't I captain Pope, McCarthy, Leno, Ederson? Why didn't I captain that guaranteed 15 to 20 points, which would have been 30? If it was a triple captaincy, think of that as well. And every time I don't. I'm not doing it this time because it's just my makeup of my team is not. I don't have Pope. I have Ederson. So, but I do think you've raised a really good point there, and I do think certain people should be quite rightly tempted by that. I think there are options. Looking down the fixtures as well. So I suppose you're looking at single game week options here. The only one I could think really would be Fernandes, Manchester United away to West Brom. Fernandes away, he's on great form. West Brom are awful. I mean, that looks like good. I mean, he would possibly be a vice captain for me, even because it's so. I could just see goals. That game.
Yeah. I've got a horrible feeling this is a week where a single game week is the top goal scorer, and I wouldn't be surprised if it came from this match, whether it be him or Rashford. I mean, West Brom. I heard Allardyce interviewed after the match, and he was talking about he just hasn't got a settled formation. He's tried every different formation in the book. It was a 4-3-3 at the weekend. Dropped Pereira, of course, was one of his best players of the last few weeks. He doesn't seem to have a clue of the right combination of players.
He's even tried dropping their best player. I mean, what? Yeah, that's scraping the barrel.
And bringing in Lee Peltier as well, who actually didn't have that bad a game. But if you're bringing in someone who was completely in the cold to play, he's his 3rd different right back in the time he's been there. They were a mess. I mean, it's asking a lot of Maitland-Niles and the new lad Yokozlu to come in and shore up that defence in front of the back four. But if it was a single game week, absolutely captaining Fernandes, no questions asked.
I mean, Allardyce is in charge. West Brom are a championship side in the Premier League. So every week they're going to get hammered. Whether they just don't get quite as badly as hammered as we expect or just simply merely hammered, they're going to get hammered every week because they're just not of that level. And so he can change his formation as much as he likes. He just does not have the personnel. And when you're leaving out your best player just to see if something works, you've got problems.
Yeah.
So
well,
good point. Looking out the rest of the fixtures, I can't see anything else. So I don't think there's any barrels to be scraped there. Just pure double game week quality. And Fernandes.
Even Antonio at home to Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield United had a bit of a resurgence in form. They're looking more solid. They've got a solid core gain, and they're not getting turned over in the way that West Brom are. And of course, we don't know if Antonio's going to be fit.
No, we don't. But so if you're watching this after the cup game, we might have some insight into his fitness. There, we certainly might have some comments. You're back later in the week to chat to Andy with the latest team news. So that's going to be one of the things we'll look at, and I'm sure there'll be some FA Cup lineups to look back on in amongst that to see if we can assess who might be starting and stuff. So you also have the team lineup predictions as well. So do check those out on Fantasy Football Scout. We've also been looking at a lot of stats from the members area. It's worth checking that out on site. Lots of good stuff there. Comparison tool, rate my team, all that kind of thing. And obviously those stats as well. I favour looking at the last 4, but yeah, you can look at the last game week even. So lots there. But in the meantime, Neale, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with your captaincy decision.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, pleasure. See you again soon.